And now, the Lowdown, with economist and political strategist Elson Low.
Good evening, folks. Good evening, and welcome to the Lowdown. I'm your host, Elson Low. Always good to see you on these Saturday nights. As we say, start your Saturday off on a high with Elson Low. We've got a fun show for you tonight. We've always got an exciting show for you tonight. What we're going to try to do is to give you a sense of how quickly the country is growing, of how quickly we're seeing oil production grow much faster than expected, and of what you can kind of anticipate in terms of some of the wealth that's being created. So, folks, share the link. Share the link. You know, we're always here for a laugh on Saturday nights. We like to keep it light on Saturday nights. Share the link. Let's try to get as many people as possible with an opportunity to see the show. So share that link. Let's give people a chance to see the show. So yes, we're gonna cover some interesting things tonight. We're gonna cover some projections, but we're also going to give you a sense of what has changed from the time that we started production to now, how expectations have changed, how we've run past some of the projections, and the country is actually moving faster, growing faster than we had even expected. So, folks, we're going to give you a breakdown of all these things. You just share the link. Let's give everyone a chance to have a look at tonight's program, have a laugh with us. We're also going to talk about Lamborghinis, folks. We're going to talk about Lamborghinis. We've been hearing you've been hearing the government play down the oil revenues. Of course, on this show, we've demonstrated that Guyana has more barrels of oil per person than Saudi Arabia. So the government playing down the prospects for Guyana when it comes to the future oil revenues is indeed a subject of great humor for me. So we're going to talk a bit about that. We're going to demonstrate that it is entirely possible that in only a few short years you might start to see some Lamborghinis driving around this town, not just the one that exists currently. I don't know if they'll be able to make it with the roads. I don't know if the roads will be friendly to them, but we may see some of these things start to pop up. And I don't know if you've noticed this, citizens, but I've started to see some pretty interesting vehicles around this town, some pretty interesting vehicles popping up here and there. Wealth is being created. And while it's good that the country is growing and we want Guyanese, of course, to benefit as much as they can, we also want to make sure that everyone is able to benefit from our growing country. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. We're going to talk a bit about some of the policies that the PNC's put forward to help to address some of this wealth inequality so that we can all grow together. So share the link, folks. Share the link. Let's get everyone to tune in. We'll have a fun show as always, and hopefully it will give you a few insights that are useful. We're going to have a guest tonight, a guest to come on for a bit tonight, and then we're going to just have a quick talk. I always share a little bit of friendly advice regarding. I share a bit of friendly advice to young people who might be interested in these types of things. So we're going to help you to understand how you can position yourself for this changing economy. So that's what we're going to be working on. We're going to be talking about tonight. It's going to be a fun show. But the first thing that we want to do, folks, of course, share that link. The first thing that we want to do is we kick off the evening, folks, as we kick off the evening's entertainment, is we want to talk a bit about some of the housing that we've seen before. We've brought to your attention some humorous examples of housing around Georgetown, the massive changes we're seeing in terms of housing prices. So we want to bring a few of those quick hits back to your attention, and that will hopefully help to frame the discussion. So we're gonna jump into the first one of these, which is a house. There you go. You got a house in a good neighborhood for Shadnagar, 4 bedrooms, but that's going for US $4,000 a month. $4,000. That is US 4,000. That is 800,000 Guyana dollars a month. 800,000. So let's say that you are a working person and you've got a family that you're supporting, so you need a couple of bedrooms. You're gonna have to fork out $800,000 for your housing alone. Now, generally, it's thought that housing really shouldn't be more than a third of your income. So if you're forking out $800,000 for housing by itself, you've got to be making $2.4 million a month in order for you to reasonably afford an $800,000 a month rental price. So yeah, that's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy. You've got to be really making bank. $2.4 million you've got to be taking home to afford this $800,000 a month house. So the question is, who's making this $2.4 million? All right, that's the start us off, folks. That's the start us off. Let's get the next one up. Let's take a look at the next. So there we've got a particular. We always like to share the memes of the week, or the funny posts of the week. And so here, someone is making a joke that you got an apartment for rent here for $150,000, but instead of having a shower head, you have a sink. You have a sink head. So you can just turn it on, and I guess water flows just the same. But that's for $150,000 here, folks. That is a serious chunk of change. Again, if we apply the same rule, then you're looking at someone who would be making $450,000 a month just for this $150,000 apartment. So this is someone obviously expressing their frustration at the absolutely absurd prices that we're seeing for housing in this country. Absolutely absurd prices. Let's pop over to the next shot here, folks. All right, so again, we've got another one apartment. This is $1,000 a month for this apartment. $200,000, 200,000 Guyana dollars a month for this apartment. Now, again, following that same principle, you got to be making $600,000 a month to afford a $200,000 a month apartment. So very hefty numbers, very hefty. I mean, this is just a general figure, but it's in the ballpark. That's a lot of money. Folks out here making 600,000 a month comfortably. That's some serious change. And of course, we would anticipate that a lot of these individuals be working in the oil and gas industry, which is driving the growth of the country. So of course, we completely understand that they'll be able to afford more expensive housing and so on. But at the same time, we want to ensure that everyone has access to affordable housing close enough to where they work, that it's convenient for them. Otherwise, we're going to have some serious problems. People might end up having to live, all the way in Linden or in Bartica or something. That's not at all what we're looking for. We want everyone in Guyana to have access to affordable housing. Affordable housing. We want everyone to get a chance to have access to affordable housing so that everyone can live comfortably in our country, so that we can all benefit, all of us, from this, the great bounties this oil and gas economy is bringing as we go forward. But that's not necessarily the case. So let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next shot here, folks. Okay, so now we've got another house. This one is in South, 2 bedroom in South. That's 1,500 US, so $300,000. $300,000 for a 2 bedroom in South. Someone was complaining it's not even a ritzy area. It's a reasonable area, but it's not a high end area. But no, you're looking at $300,000 for a 2 bedroom, for $150,000 per bedroom there. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough. That's again, you got to be making $450,000 a month to do that. So really, for the average Guyanese, and let's not forget, folks, that the minimum wage in Guyana is $44,200. So that sounds to me like you're way off. What is that? You'd have to be making 10 times the minimum wage to afford a house in South. You'd have to be making 10 times the minimum wage to afford housing in South Georgetown. Yeah, folks, you see what's going on in this country. You see the rapid changes that are happening in our country. It's unbelievable. 10 times the minimum wage to get a house in South, much less a house in, maybe Savannville or Bel Air. You're talking about some serious, serious numbers there. And of course, what we'll delve into is the size of the workforce that's going to be connected to this oil and gas industry, the substantial size of that workforce, and how that is actually going to, the substantial workforce is actually going to have a big impact on the housing market in Guyana, especially in Georgetown, East Bank, East Coast, along the Demerara River. As we've mentioned before, you're going to see 8 shore bases in the Demerara River alone. 8 shore bases. That is a lot of shore bases. That's quite a substantial workforce that's going to be there. And of course, we mentioned previously on this show that for every oil and gas job generated, usually you see 2.7 additional jobs outside of the oil and gas industry. So that's going to mean a lot of jobs in these areas. This is going to mean a lot of people will be looking to live in these areas, live and work relatively close to where their workplaces are, living to live relatively close to where their workplaces are. Sorry, and as a result, you're going to see continuing demand for housing in this part of the country. So that is something that we absolutely must tackle. But let's take a look at how the government is addressing this issue. Let's put up the next shot. There you go. The government is addressing this issue by building 100 houses. Look at that. Isn't that fine? 100 houses. That's what we're seeing there. So we've got Berbice and various other parts of the country. They're building these little 100 houses schemes, and of course, I must ask the question, viewers. Viewers, we have to ask this question seriously, and the question is, if we're seeing house prices explode in Georgetown, in the Spanish East Coast, what is the government doing building only 100 houses? Should be building much more substantial low-income housing to help to ease this pressure, especially in the areas where the pressure is being felt the most. Not, a fair way out of town. That's all the way at Berbice. So that I find to be quite amusing when you've got people paying $150,000 for a bedroom in South. With the greatest respect to those who live in South, of course. That's still pretty steep. And so, what it essentially means is that there's a real question as to whether this housing issue is being dealt with any level of seriousness by the government, any level of seriousness. They've mentioned that for those who have house lots, they'll be willing to build a house and then you can get a loan and repay them, and get a loan and repay them later on. But of course, that means that the government would own your house until you repay them. And of course, that raises a couple of questions, such as if you don't repay, will the government repossess your house? Will the government come in and repossess your home? That's a pretty tricky issue. That's a very tricky issue. So that to me seems not to be the right solution to that problem. It seems to me that they want more people to access credit, be able to afford low-income housing. They should offer a facility with low interest rates and a low down payment amount for those who already have a house lot. That seems pretty obvious to me. The government is kind of going out of their way here to do something that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of their objective. I think there's a lot easier ways to do it than building people's houses and then, of course, suffering from the risk that they will not pay you for the house that you built. Are you going to come and repossess that house? Are you going to pick that house up off of the lot and carry it and take it with you? That's an interesting one from the government there. They always provide us with ample entertainment, viewers. They always provide us with ample entertainment. Absolutely. Now we've got another interesting shot here for you. Viewers, let's get the next photo up there. Great, so we got a photo of some yachts. So the government is saying that they anticipate that Guyana can be I guess it says a hub for yachts, for the yacht service industry. So someone is saying, why are you laughing? Now, what does this imply? A yacht service industry? Doesn't a yacht service industry imply that a lot of people have yachts? Doesn't the yacht service industry imply that a lot of people are able to afford yachts? That a lot of yachts will be visiting? That will have a lot of really wealthy people in the country? Isn't that what a yacht service industry implies? So at the same time that we're seeing very few houses being built, at the same time that we're seeing the rent go through the roof, at the same time that we're seeing, in order for you to afford a house, afford a one bedroom in the south, you'd have to be making 10 times the minimum wage. We're seeing the talk about yachts. So some people are making money. The question, of course, for you viewers is, are you one of the people that's making money? And that's a good question, I think. That's a very good question. Again, that national minimum wage, even if it is raised from 4,200 as it is right now, uh, the next number being discussed is 60,000. Uh, Still a far cry away from the $450,000 that we just indicated you'd have to be making to get that sweet, sweet one bedroom in South. That sweet, sweet one bedroom in South Georgetown. So again, a big imbalance here in Guyana, massive imbalance, and that's something that really needs to be addressed, and something that you can rest assured the TNC will address and will put out policies to address. You can rest assured. But as it stands right now, I don't know if the government is not taking it seriously or not really realizing the scale of the issue, the absolute huge scale of the issue. So that concludes our segment for this evening. Our meme segment. We've got some funny things popping up. Of course, you know I'm partial to dark humor, so these while these things are a bit unfortunate, they are quite funny. They are quite funny. You know, it's a very difficult time for many Guyanese. It's a very difficult time. We're dealing with very substantial income inequality, and it's going to get much greater. It's going to actually be more wealth inequality, not just income inequality. Income inequality is different in how much people earn. Wealth inequality is different in how much in people's total assets. So the value of people's homes, value of their stocks, value of other investments they may have made. So there's going to be big differences there as well. Big differences there. From that perspective, any of you seen the trailer, the poster I put out for the show today? I talked a bit about Lamborghinis, and I did mention that. So let's throw up a quick picture of some Lamborghinis from Saudi Arabia. They even have a Lamborghini club. Don't they look gorgeous, viewers? Don't they look gorgeous? You've got your entire Lamborghini club. Everyone's rolling in the Lamborghinis, living that life. And of course, you say to yourself, well, it's Saudi Arabia. There's no way it could happen in Guyana. But viewers, I remind you, we have demonstrated on this show that Guyana has more barrels of oil per person. Guyana has more barrels of oil per person than Saudi Arabia. And so could it be that these Lamborghini clubs are feasible in the near future in Guyana? Well, we'll demonstrate tonight that the increase in the value of assets in the country, some assets, is so substantial that if people were so inclined, you could see a Lamborghini club right here in Guyana in the next few years. That's the speed and the scale of what is going on in our country. But it's something we're not quite understanding here in Guyana. Not clear on that at all. So we're gonna help to clarify that for you. We're gonna help you to see what's really going on, and hopefully that will help you to get a better appreciation of the massive changes in our country. And one of the things we really want to focus on is speed at which the speed at which Exxon is ramping up production, because it is far ahead of what was projected originally. And it's almost 1 FPS, more than 1 FPS, so ahead of projection. So So we're going to break that down to you viewers. We're going to give you a sense of how quickly that is all moving, and hopefully that will, help you to absorb a bit the vast changes, and you can reflect for yourself on how things are going in the country, whether you think they're going in the direction you would like them to go, viewers. So we're gonna give you a sense of that. Hopefully, it is useful to you and gives you uh, uh, some appreciation for these changes. So now, one of the things I again mentioned is that we seem to be seeing the government play down Guyana's future. Say, oh, there isn't money for this, there isn't money for that. They recently brought in the issue of NIS. Of course, we don't want to delve into that. That would require its own show, viewers. But one of the side effects of that is that it is painted a portrait of government not having money, Guyana not having money, and funds available. Now, this is, of course, I find it hilarious on multiple levels. The first being that I'll gently remind you, viewers, that Guyana just passed the largest budget in its history, which was a solid about just under $200 billion larger than the previous year's budget. $200 billion is a lot of money. So for them to say that there isn't any money is deeply amusing. So viewers, the other thing about that is that some of the government's own releases of estimates of the next few years themselves make for great reading. Great reading. It's not my word. If you think that maybe I'm not the best source, let me provide you with a source that comes from the government themselves as to how many oil revenues, the size of these oil revenues will be going forward, so that you can hopefully be further convinced, not by my words, but by the government's own words, so that when they try to paint this narrative, this pessimistic narrative, you can understand or appreciate that it's probably just being ignored. Um, so all of this, of course, is before the Ukraine crisis. Estimates before the Ukraine crisis that sent oil prices through the roof. But even before that Ukraine war, the DPI made a release. It said that in 4 years, Ghana expects oil revenues twice the size of its 2022 budget. That's the big $550 billion budget. DPI goes on to say that in 2022 will receive US 967 million. 2023, 1.17 billion US. This is oil revenues. So 2024, 1.34 billion. 2025, 1.78 billion. That is more than 5 billion US in oil revenue. 5 billion US. Now let us recall that there was once a time in Guyana, we didn't know that there was oil there at all. And all of a sudden, here we are receiving 5 billion US in revenue, which is over a trillion Guyana dollars in revenue between now and 2025. We've moved from talking about billions of Guyana, hundreds of billions of Guyana dollars, to talking about trillions of Guyana dollars. Trillions of Guyana dollars. And I think one of the things that I just want to mention is maybe color the discussion negatively is there's a lot of talk about the contracts with Exxon, and I understand why to talk about that. But the time that we spend talking about it is, that has unfortunately meant that we've not spent much time talking about the actual funds we're getting and what we're going to do with them. And so I think many people, it has crept up on them that we're going to be receiving over a trillion Guyana dollars in revenue over the course of just a few short years. What are we going to be doing with this trillion dollars? How much of this will be spent? How much is going to naturally fund? And so let's give you viewers a bit more perspective on it. Let's talk about it in terms of growth. Let's talk about it in terms of the growth rate of the economy, how quickly the economy will grow. In 2020, we had a growth rate of 44%. 2021, 24%. 2022, it's expected 50%, but I think it will far exceed that because of the high oil price. 2023, 34%, but again, I expect that to be massively increased. This is because not on the oil price, because some of the production is starting earlier than expected. Production is starting earlier than expected. In fact, the BBC had estimated in 2019 By 2025, Ghana's GDP would expand between 300% and 1,000%. So it could triple, or it could be 10 times as large. Uh, Now, viewers, that's a 5 year span, and we're seeing GDP get 10 times larger. 10 times larger. Now, incomes will perhaps not rise that quickly. But you know what does rise quickly in value? What does rise quickly in value? Real estate, especially prime real estate. That tends to move in accordance with GDP. And so, when you see a 300% increase, that could mean that property values have tripled, especially for prime real estate in the good parts of Georgetown. When you see a 1,000% increase, it will mean that real estate will go up 10 times over in the good areas of Georgetown. And you may think, that could never happen. How could you say that housing will triple or even go up 10 times over? That's crazy. And we'll break this down to a bit here. But let me give you a quick taste of it. We recently saw the Private Sector Commission come out to say that rents around Georgetown from 2019 to now had tripled. Tripled. This BBC article is from 2019, and it indicated a tripling of the GDP. So it seems that we're, in terms of the assets, in terms of housing, that we're already on track with what the BBC article had indicated, that we're already there. And folks, it's not 2025, it's 2022. So that would imply that the 1,000% increase that they are mentioning is on the table. On the table as something that is very feasible. That would mean that your house is 10 times, will worth 10 times as much in only a short period of time. That has very significant implications here. Very significant implications. Because what it really means is that we're going to mint a lot of US millionaires in a very short space of time. Very short space of time. So we'll go through that and help you get a perspective on that. But before we get into that, let's take a look at some of the articles that have come out recently that have talked a bit about this massive gold rush. So let's get the next article up there. Okay, so we've got an article here which indicates that the Payara developments, that's the next FPSO, the next floating offshore development that's going to be producing this oil, is going to be starting up earlier in 2023, actually, rather than 2024 as originally expected. And that will boost our oil output to 450,000 barrels of oil a day easily. So that's a very substantial increase. Now, what that means, you, is that country will be growing much faster, or could be growing much faster next year, because if our estimates were based off of 2024, and then now in 2023 they're producing this additional amount of oil, and therefore we're going to see that big jump come earlier than we had anticipated. So that's one article pointing to that. Let's get the next article there. Okay, so we've got another article here, viewers. Another article which indicates, this article indicates that we're going to see further earlier production, that Exxon's fifth project, which will be the largest, that will be producing 275,000 barrels of oil a day. Instead of coming online in 2027 or 2028, as it was originally expected to come online, they will be coming online in 2026. 2026, viewers, so earlier than what was initially anticipated. Now, if this is going to be coming on earlier, that means that GDP growth will be much higher than expected in these years. So we're bringing forward our GDP growth. Now, as housing is tied, real estate is tied to GDP, almost one to one, sometimes a bit less, but especially prime real estate, you start to get a sense that we're going to be seeing some very big moves, some very big moves. Now, as we've indicated in a previous show, if Exxon continues to grow its workforce at the current rate, and they expect 12 of these oil-producing vessels offshore, that would produce about 30 to 40,000 workers, maybe 30,000 workers. which is a very substantial workforce that's going to need housing. As time goes on, we expect that we will see more and more of that workforce be that will mean that we're going to see um, a lot of these higher end rentals because people from abroad, of course, will want to live in the better areas of the country, safe areas of the country, things to that effect. So that is what we're going to see if that is the case. If that is the case, we're going to see that. Those high end homes, as you saw there, those high end homes that's going to be what we're going to see a lot more of as Exxon cranks up its production. Remember, 12 of those oil producing vessels offshore is a lot, a lot. And it usually is producing 200,000 barrels of oil a day. And you get a sense of the huge numbers we're talking about here. I mean, that potentially at peak, maybe a bit less, but let's see how the industry develops. For now, however, we're definitely ahead. And given that we're ahead, let's get a few more of these articles to paint this picture, and then we'll look at some graphs as to what's going on. That will give us, I think, a good sense of the real impact of these things. So, Exxon, with just three discoveries, they were able to increase the number of resources that they believe is in Guyana from 10 to 11 billion barrels of oil. Just three discoveries, folks. That's just this year. That's just this year. So we moved far by a whole billion barrels of oil. Some countries don't have a billion barrels of oil, ladies and gentlemen. Some countries don't even have that. So you can only imagine the real impact that something like that is having. We're racing ahead in terms of the number of barrels of oil per person. We're racing ahead. We're massively increasing. Let's get the next finds that we've had since 2015 have represented about 10% of all global finds. The most recent finds, I believe they're saying. So what they're essentially giving us a sense of is that where oil is being found across the world, the place that is being found the most, or where you're seeing the most finds really, is in Guyana. This is the hot spot. This is the key hot spot in the world. So we should expect the country to grow the way that the key hotspot would grow. And I think we've got a couple more of these. Let's get another one of these articles up. Very interesting articles. So this is indicating that the 2024 is when the Payara field was supposed to come on board. So that's 220,000 barrels of oil per day. There are plans for 3 FPSOs by 2030. What I want to point out to you viewers is this year 2030. Now we just talked about 2026. So we just talked about 2026. So originally people were talking about 2030. The timelines that move forward, 2026, 2027, we're a couple of years, perhaps as many as 2 years, as these projections go ahead of schedule, ahead of schedule. And the fact that we have a nice high oil price has made it, even more pronounced. This absolutely swift rise has been even more pronounced. Our growth rate is even higher. So we're way, way ahead of schedule. That's what's going on. That, of course, I would consider to be a good thing. And the reason I consider it to be a good thing is oil is something that we're not going to produce forever. The world is moving away from an oil and gas base. So we need to get this oil out of the ground as fast as we can. And given that we've got a good oil price right now, that is even better, even better. But how quickly are we actually doing this relative to other countries? Let's get the next slide. Okay, so this, in the highlighted area, this indicates that Liza was the fastest, Liza Phase 1, so that's the fast first oil production in Guyana. That was the fastest deep water field in history to move from discovery to production in under 5 years. Fastest in history. So what we're seeing is extremely quick development, extremely quick development. And, of course, I understand that some will say that maybe this is because Exxon is benefiting and so on. But what I'd like citizens to understand is we are massively benefiting from the speed we can get this oil out before oil stops being the dominant commodity. It will massively benefit us. Otherwise, the other side of the coin is that the oil will be left in the ground and it will be of no use to anyone. So that's just one perspective on it. I think there are other perspectives which are valuable as well. You have to look at the environmental impact of these things and so on. And we want to ensure that all the right procedures are followed so that we ensure that the companies perform the way they should perform. But on the flip side, it's good that we're able to get quick production. It's good that we're ramping up as fast as we can, and we're seeing the country really move forward at light speed as a result of that. And so we should be pleased as citizens. Now, I want to give you a couple of graphs to give you some perspective. Sometimes it's nice to visualize these things. So let's throw up a couple quick graphs here. So the first graph we've got is the original path of oil production. That's counting 2020 as the first year, and then looking at the next 7 years. So the original path of production was going to lead us up and away there to around 810,000 barrels of oil production in 2026. That was the original path. But instead, what we're seeing is that let's go on to the next graph. We've got the next one, right? So we're seeing the actual rate of production. So it's much higher, quite quick as we've indicated to you viewers, and that's going to put us around about 1,105,000 barrels of oil a day by 2026. A big jump up. Let's get the final graph in there. Okay, so you see now these two graphs side by side. That's original expected production and then the actual production level that we're producing at. And what you're seeing there is you're seeing a much swifter climb in the orange line. This is oil production, barrels of oil on one side, years on the other, 2020 being the first year, 2026 being the year at the end. You're seeing a really sharp climb there too. And that means that in 2026, we're actually going to be producing 295,000 barrels of oil per day, more than we had originally expected. We've sped things up. Now, viewers, I want you to throw your mind back to that BBC article that said that Guyana's GDP could triple or even go 10 times larger by 2025. We're now talking about 2026, so just afterwards. But we're talking about a much faster pace of oil production. So even that 1,000%, we may see that 1,000% eclipsed by 2026, eclipsed very handsomely. So all of the projections that were optimistic may not have been as optimistic as these are. It depends. But this just gives you a sense that we're moving much fast, 295,000 barrels of oil more. For context, even in the 80s, Trinidad was not producing 295,000 barrels at its peak. In the more recent past, the more recent peak is 160,000 barrels of oil. So what we're looking at here is that it's not just that our individual production will be much higher than Trinidad's production, but that the gap between what is being produced and what was expected, that gap by itself is larger than Trinidad's highest ever oil production. That's the scale at which we're operating here, a huge, huge scale. And so viewers, let's tie all this back down together with the question of the Lamborghini deal. And we'll tie the Lamborghini back down to, we'll tie that Lamborghini down to housing prices and housing.
What if I
So we've got a quick video that will give you some perspective on this, and we'll jump right into that.
Way across the globe, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of abandoned supercars slowly decaying in the desert, in parking garages, impound lots, and even on the side of the road. These cars were just ditched and forgotten about. But why? Who left them there? And how do I buy one? We're going to answer all these questions and more on today's episode. Let me tell you, it's not just rich guys ditching their cars. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Buff horses. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were there. Caught me in the middle of a Raycon ad. Now, I know on the outside I sound a little rusty, but with these Raycon Everyday E25s in my ears, I sound like this. The Everyday E25s keep me rocking with 6 hours of playtime, and with those noise isolating compact design, I can rock as hard as I want to and they'll never fall out. Don't mind them. Those are just the other celebrities who use Raycon. Not saying that I'm a celebrity, all right? What's even better is they sound just as amazing as those other premium earbuds, but at half the price. Plus, they don't just come in boring old white, all right? Raycons come in a range of fun colors and patterns, so you can get the pair that best fits you. And if they aren't perfect, Raycon offers a free 45-day return policy. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/donut to get 15% off your Raycon purchase today. I promise you, you won't regret it. I use these things like every day, and only sometimes my wig gets stuck in them. No one is exactly sure how many supercars are deteriorating in the desert climate of Dubai, but it's a ton. And it's kind of infuriating that cars like this one of 399 made Ferrari Enzo, this Bugatti Veyron, this Jaguar XJ220, and this Toyota Formula One race car are all just dying a slow death. Is this the work of some spoiled Arab princes with too much money on their hands? Well, actually, it's a lot deeper than that, and to understand why these cars were left, we have to take a closer look at how this city operates. Dubai is the largest city in terms of population in the sovereign state of the United Arab Emirates, or UAE for short. Nowadays, Dubai is known for its insane architecture like the Burj Khalifa, which I think is the tallest building in the world, incredible opulence like this indoor ski hill, and anything expensive you could ever dream of, which is why it attracts some of the richest people in the world. I had a buddy go there and I'm pretty sure he said that you could buy gold out of vending machines. I'm not bullshitting you on that. Like a lot of countries in the Middle East, the UAE became wealthy because of its rich oil and natural gas resources. Add to that its prime location on the Persian Gulf, which makes it a key trading spot, and you've got a recipe for a successful commerce hub. There's a lot of business that happens in Dubai, which attracts foreign business people. In fact, Dubai's economy is dependent on workers who have expatriated from other countries. As of 2013, 96% of Dubai's population was foreign-born. Compared to a city like New York, about 37% foreign-born, that figure is staggering. New York's like the melting pot of the world, right? But people are attracted to opportunity, and there's been a lot of opportunity in Dubai in the last 20 years. You got bankers, hedge fund managers, investors, and many other types of high-income elite call the UAE home. One of the main draw points for the UAE is that it has no income tax, and that's a huge selling point for people that make my yearly salary in a day. So you can imagine that if you've got a 7-figure plus income that's not taxed, you've probably got some money to burn on supercars. These 6-figure daily drivers are a common way of life in Dubai. Of course, you'll see economy cars on the road too, but I can almost guarantee you that you won't feel out of place driving a $200,000 supercar to the mall on Saturday. And trust me, there are plenty of places to shop in Dubai. The taxes are lower, the roads are very well maintained, and it's actually not that hard to find a used luxury car for a good price that wasn't actually abandoned. Supercars are a way of life in Dubai because it's an easy way to show off your wealth. Just like LA, that's why everyone drives McLarens now instead of GT3s, which I thought were cooler. Before people move to Dubai, they have an expectation that life will be luxurious. That means most people are buying these cars.
Viewers, that just gave you a taste of Dubai. I believe that there was a Dubai Expo last year where the government was present. So that just gives you a quick taste of it. The reason I wanted to give you that taste though is I want to give you a sense of where in many respects Guyana, I believe, will be heading. And I'll give you the clip notes of it before we bring in our guest to close out the show. And it's that if we look at the growth rate of Guyana, if we look at that BBC estimate, before we had our oil in the country, a house in a really nice area might Might be worth 50 million Guyana dollars. A really nice house out there. Now, if we're going to have 1,000% growth, if we're going to be 10 times, it's going to be 10 times larger. We're looking at $500 million for prime real estate in Guyana. Prime real estate that works out to 2.5 million US. 2.5 million US. And viewers, dear viewers, if you've got 2.5 million US knocking around, it strikes me that you can indeed afford a Lamborghini, which the cheapest one costs about $200,000. So we may see these Lamborghinis rolling around town, but what does that say about the country more broadly? And of course, the PNCR recognizes these issues. One of the things that we've talked about in terms of tackling inequality is the salary top-up program as part of our minimum livable income strategy. We want to ensure that a lot of these benefits are distributed across society, not just to those who happen to be in the high-end areas that happen to be benefiting. We're advocating for all Guyanese to be able to benefit. And of course, these programs can sometimes come from can sometimes be attacked from this perspective that they're, giving away money and people are going to waste the money and these sorts of arguments. But we believe that those who are benefiting from minimum livable income benefits, these salary top-ups, certain things should be connected to that, such as their children should finish high school, simple, or medical interventions, such as taking a medical in your senior years every year, so that government can invest in preventative care, not just in care after the fact. These are important interventions, and that these things will have very substantial positive effects on the economy. Education, for example, we believe that we can reduce the dropout rate in Guyana, which is a very serious issue. Very serious issue. We've got thousands upon thousands of students dropping out every year from high school. We believe that that can be reduced by 90%, which will put us in line with developed economies. We want to get that dropout rate right down. And as a result of getting that dropout rate right down, we want to ensure we will have a much better trained workforce, a larger workforce that will be able to meet the needs of the nation. So, folks, well, we've got a guest for you tonight that we'll be looking to bring on. We'll be looking to chat with Christopher Jones, who is the chief whip in Guyana's parliament, MP Christopher Jones, someone that I know and who is a personality I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So we'll bring him on. Good night, Chris. Good night. Can you hear me? Hi, are you hearing me there, Chris?
Yeah, my apologies. I had the mic muted.
Okay, okay. Well, good night, good night. I trust that you enjoyed the program so far, and we're just going to ask you a couple of fun questions. The goal of the Lowdown when it comes to these types of interviews is to show a lighter side of everyone. We don't just want to be dealing with the dark stuff all the time, as much as my sense of humor may be dark.
I hear you.
Great, great. So, Chris, the first question we've got for you is, where are you originally from? Where'd you grow up?
All right. So I'm actually born in Georgetown, but grew up on the Essequibo Coast. Both parents are from the Essequibo Coast. My father is from Queenstown. My mother is from Devonshire Castle. Yeah.
Okay, nice, nice, nice. I'm sure you've got lots of stories of you catching crab and various other adventures.
I actually can. I can tell you about the days of swimming in a trench in
There you
Devonshire
go.
Castle,
There you
which
go.
actually borders the main road and
Yeah.
Cayman Sankar's rice field. Yeah. So
Okay.
we used to be sitting in the mornings after my grandmother would have prepared breakfast. We sat on the veranda
Yeah.
overlooking Cayman Sankar rice field, and at
Okay.
that time it would
Nice.
have been a sight to see a plane actually landing there. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was a big thing.
Okay.
It was a big
Okay.
thing.
That sounds great. That sounds like lots of fun, to be honest. You're hanging out
Yeah,
with your friends, the plane coming in to land, you're
yeah.
taking a dip. That sounds great.
But you know,
Um,
sorry, it would have been more so the April, the Easter season, and imagine my grandmother who had 13 children. And
Wow. Good for her.
all of those cousins come together around the Easter time. So the house is full with probably
Yeah,
no
I
less
bet.
than 50, 60 of us. Yeah,
I bet. I bet. Yeah, that sounds like a real wild time. That's a lot of people.
exactly.
Okay. Okay. So the next question we always ask is, what is your least favorite food? Your
Uh,
least favorite food.
Karela,
Karila. There we go.
Karela.
Finally, we've been asking this question. Finally, we get a nice, simple, standard answer. Karila.
Mm,
We've gotten all
Karela.
sorts of strange answers. Soda, as an example, is someone's least favorite. But I
Yeah.
expected the first thing people would say was Karila.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, even
Yeah,
to this day, as
yeah,
grown as I am,
yeah.
Karela can't pass my throat for no reason. Yeah,
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it is. I think it's a difficult thing to cook. I would put it that way. I've had
yeah,
good Karela before, but not often. Not often.
yeah.
Okay.
They will tell you to eat it fast and swallow it, but the taste comes back immediately after.
Yeah, yeah. That's rough. That's rough. What movie or TV show have you rewatched the most?
Blacklist.
Blacklist. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Blacklist.
Yeah.
I'm still to complete because I think it's now in the ninth season. But on Netflix, it actually stopped at the seventh season. So I know some friends who are already in the
Yeah.
ninth season, but I haven't been able to catch up
Yeah.
since then. But it's Blacklist.
I feel like I know of another MP who is a big fan of this show. I shall have to investigate this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's gonna be a gasp. For those who familiar with Blacklist will know where that comes from. Yeah, it will be a
Okay.
gasp.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have not seen a single episode, but I am
Wow.
encouraged now that maybe I
Yes,
should.
you should.
Okay.
You should.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What is your least favorite vacation or trip? Least favorite. It was very long. It was very difficult. You lost your bags halfway. You went on vacation and it rained all day, every day, all of the 7 days that you were out there. It was rain. Least favorite vacation or trip?
All right. I can't remember the country immediately. Apologies for that. But essentially, it was a trip, part of when I was the director of sport. Um, it was a seminar of which sports ministers, directors, and so forth had gathered.
Oh,
And we were constrained to remain on the resort because the country has a very high crime rate. So
oh
none of the
wow,
delegates here were allowed to go beyond the boundaries of that.
that's tough.
And
That's tough.
when we arrived in country, we were actually escorted by military and police.
Wow,
It was a full
really,
gun show. Yeah, it was a full gun
really,
show. Myself and the
yeah,
assistant director of sports, we were in the middle, vehicles in front, vehicle in back,
yeah,
and the long
wow,
guns and all of that. Yeah, so that
yeah,
was that left the taste
yeah,
that I
yeah.
don't like. Yeah.
If it was Afghanistan, you can say you don't have to
No, it was
hide.
for the life of me. I can't remember
Yeah,
it. I hope before the program concludes, it'll
sure.
come to me before.
That
Yeah.
that sounds like Afghanistan if I had to guess. That's very difficult. Okay. What is the largest crowd that you've ever been in?
2015 APNU AFC campaign rally on the Square of the Revolution.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was going to be
Mhm.
my guess as well. That was a massive,
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
rally.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
some may say that I think the opening rally, which was at a Durban Park for the 2020 elections,
Mm.
some may say that might have trumped that
Oh
of
yes.
2015. Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, I thought you were saying the 2021 because 2021 was what was in my mind. I think
Right.
2021
Yeah.
was bigger than 2015. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was. It was indeed. It was indeed.
Yeah, yeah. I think those rounds of rallies were the biggest in Guyana's history. I remember the Linden one as an example was also
Exactly.
quite massive. Those
Exactly.
were very interesting times for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the
Yep.
largest crowd. I thought you were going to tell me, cricket or something like that. So that might be.
Oh no no
Yeah.
no. AP and UFC rallies trunks those. Yeah. They
There
do.
you go. There you go. Okay. Another one we've had some interesting answers to is what is your favorite smell? Now, some folks have actually turned out to be perfumers. They've got all sorts of scents that they like. Folks just
Mhm.
have a particular cologne that they like, but I don't know if you have any particular smell that you like. Could be a smell that you like on someone else, smell that you like for yourself. Just was random
Right,
thoughts.
right. So that would be what is it? I think Victoria's Secret. Actually, my wife, before we got
Okay,
married,
okay.
yeah, before we got married, she always wore that,
Very
and
classy, very
it's
classy. Yeah.
yeah, it's like her signature scent. So every time I'm anywhere and any female walks past and they're wearing that same, it reflects right back on my wife. So it's
Ah,
Victoria's Secret. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, it's a little bit of a defense mechanism right there as well.
yeah, that's right. Mother's Day's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay. I see you.
Okay.
What is so just switching gears a little bit. What we always
Sure.
want to know from various members of our leadership what their biggest hopes are, and thing that you're
Oh,
looking forward to in the future of
yeah.
Ghana that you really want to
Yeah.
see bear out in our.
Right. Truly, I've always been putting this that essentially, I see that the resources of this country is so plentiful. And with our population being less than 1 million people, that every single Guyanese, irrespective of his or her ethnicity, irrespective of his or her religious belief, irrespective of his or her political persuasion, should be able to live comfortably in our
Yeah,
home. They should be able to educate their children, should be able to feed their family, should be able to do medical checkups with their family, should be able to take their family on vacations.
yeah, absolutely.
That they live in an environment which is crime free,
Yeah, yeah,
and that sort of thing. So that essentially is one of the
yeah.
greatest hope I have for this country, that day will come very soon, very soon.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that we really must fight for in this country is that everyone is able to benefit. Because
that's right.
as we demonstrated on the show, some folks in Georgetown will be millionaires. Let's try to make sure that
Hmm.
the broader population can
That's right.
benefit. Because as
That's right.
much as some of these in town we're going to see properties go through the roof, if you're squatting and you don't have
Hmm.
own anything, then as much as some people are making millions in the US, you're not making
Yeah,
anything. So
that's right.
we need to
That's right.
ensure that that is not the tale with which we're faced in this country. So I love
Exactly.
hearing that. I love hearing that. That's a great sentiment. Chris, if you have any final words, and then we'll stop disturbing your Saturday night and allow you to go on and enjoy yourself.
All right. So, but essentially, I'd like to say thank you very much, Elson, for having me on your program. This is the first time I've been on the program, but I've had the opportunity on quite a few Saturday evening to listen to your presentation, and I must say that they are very insightful. In fact, a lot of the information that you shared on this very program, I just hope that you were able to get a larger platform in which all on sundry, particularly Guyanese here, will be able to know exactly what is happening in the country, because the numbers are so large, and people don't necessarily pay attention to it. But the manner in which you present those figures to people and you put it into perspective and you sort of, what we will say, you break it down to the fine change, so to speak, is that persons are better able to to grasp exactly the economic situation that we have in the country, and the fact that we're being told by Vice President, for example, telling the population that, listen, I don't expect anything major from island gas because it just isn't there. And whereas you have just laid out, as you have been doing on these programs, you have been laying out that the truth is completely different, that there's currently billions of dollars in circulation in our country, and in the coming years, it will go to trillions of dollars. And therefore, the Guyanese people should have already been seeing or benefiting from those monies that are currently circulating. Quite a few, a very small few, who are close to the administration, clearly are benefiting. You can see in terms of real estate, you can see in terms of development that is happening in certain parts of the country, but that is literally just a handful. But because you have revealed the truth in terms of the billions of dollars in circulation in this country, that will soon move to trillions of dollars. Every Guyanese now have a clear understanding that they're supposed to had been benefiting a while ago from this oil and gas industry.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. Thank you for that. I think you're 100% right. We've got to get these numbers out. We've got to help
Yep.
people to appreciate it because, you know, as the years go on, if you're not seeing big changes to this country, you need to be asking
right.
yourself why that is. And we're already seeing that multiple large national projects are
Yeah.
delayed by multiple years, whether it's Gas
right.
to Shore or Amalia or the Demerara Harbor Bridge, delayed by multiple years. So we're gonna keep an eye on all of these developments.
I
Thank
know,
you for
I know for sure you will. I know for sure you will, Elson.
great. Thank you for coming on, and we look forward to having you on down the road.
Most welcome. And to the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to you all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, folks, that was the Chief Whip, Christopher Jones, there for a nice light chat with us. I have to echo his call that Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I hope you're having a great weekend. Folks, we've come to the 8 o'clock hour. So I'll just leave you with a quick note and we'll close off the show. We've talked a lot about real estate as one area that you can tangibly see the changes in our country. As a young person, obviously this means that it's going to be difficult to find a place to live in Georgetown until there's changes to the real estate policies of the government and so on. So, given these challenges, I'd reiterate advice that I've given before that you should see if you can find a place that's accessible to town, but probably not in town itself, because otherwise you'll really be priced out of the market. And you know what you should essentially look for is a place that has good access to public transportation, good access to amenities like restaurants, supermarkets, and so on. Is obviously safe. It's a place for you to park, perhaps. Those are the things that you should look for if you can lock down a place like that for a couple of years. That will serve you well, because obviously we're going to see vast changes. We're going to see quick changes. If you can get yourself a good place for a reasonable price outside of town, but not too far, that would serve you well and allow you to avoid the very substantial changes to the economy we're seeing. Exxon's going to bring in a lot of foreign workers. We saw in the video that the majority in Dubai is foreign workers. Some are high earners, some are more construction workers and so on. But that creates housing needs. And if everyone wants to live in the highest end areas or in Georgetown, even as far flung as some of the outlying neighborhoods of Georgetown, it's going to put a lot of pressure on especially young people. So that's probably what I would describe as the best way for you to navigate these vast and swift changes to our economy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Starting your Saturday off on a high with Elson Low. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Saturday. And have a good weekend. And again, happy Mother's Day to those mothers out there.
Thank you for watching our program. See you right back here, same place, same time. And remember, hold the line of battle, comrades. Our victory is sure.